Hey guys, it's Dasher Zach back with another review, this time of the MCHOSE G98 Pro. It's a keyboard, it's not Hall effect, but it is low latency and gaming focused. It performed well for me. I had a good time typing on it and gaming on it. But the real question we're trying to address here again is, can a non-Hall effect low latency keyboard be the answer for you in gaming? Let's find out. So here we have it, the MCHOSE G98 Pro. This is a gaming keyboard. It's not Hall effect, but it is low latency gaming focused. That is why I wanted to try this out compared to other keyboards in the past I had tried that were not gaming focused, but advertised something like 12 to 13 millisecond latency. This keyboard has 1000 hertz polling, so it is at 1 millisecond latency. Right off the bat, something I would like to see them introduce in the future is potentially a non-Hall effect gaming keyboard with 8000 hertz polling, just to see what that would perform like. Give us the truest test to see how Hall effect really does affect our gaming, but I thought this would be a pretty solid test. I do enjoy the sort of black, purple, gray overall layout here, and you can see the bright, vibrant RGB flowing through here. This is a 98 layout, which is something I have not used in a very, very long time, and I'll tell you my thoughts on that in a bit. As you can see here, it's searching for the 2.4 gigahertz connection. This is wireless with 2.4 and Bluetooth. I wanted to have that on early to show you the RGB. I'm going to flip that off now so you can get a better idea what the keycaps look like. Overall, the build of this is very good. There's not really any flex here in the board. There's also this cool little MCHOSE plate here you can take off, which is where the dongle was stored. Very high quality inclusion there on the keyboard. There's also this reflective metal backplate as well, just sort of add a little bit to the luster of the keyboard, as well as these support feet, which I always love to see, although I've been leaning more towards the low profile or lack thereof to sort of mess around with my wrist health recently. This is also gasket mounted, and the switches are hot swappable, which I wanted to point out. Mostly I wanted to see the interior layout of the keyboard here, how many layers are put in there, how much thought was put into the sound and feel of the keyboard. This does come with the flame orange linear switches, which you see here in the keyboard, as well as dual shot PBT keycaps. Among the initial switch choices for this keyboard, I think the flame orange are the ones I would have chosen, as they have the smallest total travel and also the lowest pre-travel and operating force. These do feel pretty good in typing in game. I have seen lower operating forces before on our switches, and obviously without Hall effect you have this built in. It came out to roughly 2mm pre-travel on the switches, which I typically operate at 0.1 to 0.4 on my Hall effect keyboards, which is the main thing I wanted to test. How did that affect my game on this keyboard? But overall, the switches had a pleasant sound, which you'll encounter later, and I was pretty happy with these for them not being Hall effect. Software-wise, this uses the MCHOSE hub. I'm on the Chinese site, but it's automatically in English for me. There's not much to set here. You can reassign any of the keys. You have some lighting settings as well, speed, brightness, and different presets. And as far as performance goes, obviously there's no rapid trigger, there's no snap tap, there's no anything like that. It is set at a 1000 hertz polling rate. I would like, again, to see something higher than this, maybe 8K, but that's something that seems to be reserved for Hall effect keyboards these days. You can set your hibernation settings. I used top speed ultra low latency mode here. Didn't have any issues with it. Let's try to get the most responsive experience that I possibly could. And beside that, just some firmware update settings here on the last tab. As far as the switch stability goes, there's a little bit of wiggle here. You can see it's nothing crazy. It's not quite as stable as I've seen on other switches, but it did not affect me at all in game. And it's much more stable than like the first batch of the G98, for example. Press down here again just a little bit, but not much at all. Here's a quick look at the switch, and it is indeed boxed and hot swappable. So I'm taking it right out of the keyboard here with very little effort. And the keycaps, double shot PBT, felt pretty high quality to me as well. No complaints like I had on the Win68 HE Max. And as far as the spacebar goes, you can see two little pad foams here for some extra consideration to make the spacebar less clacky and hollow, which is very much appreciated and something that really bothers me on some other keyboards. Outside of stability and switches, you can see if I press really hard here on the keyboard, there is a little bit of warping and give, which I don't think is necessarily something that's bad, just something to note here and something I did not notice on the MCHOSE G75, the Hall effect keyboard that I reviewed previously. Realistically, the question was, how did this perform for me in game versus the Hall effect keyboards that I've been maining for a couple of years now? And the answer is, honestly, after a couple of days, I didn't notice a difference. I put a bunch of Fortnite on this. I think I won 6 or 7 games in zero build duo. My movements were completely fine. Perhaps I lost a little bit of immediateness, suddenness in my strafes left and right, and that could have cost me a couple gunfights, but in actuality, I still performed absolutely fine. Now, would I still recommend Hall effect keyboards in the case you can get them for the same or a little bit more? Absolutely. Those things like snap tap, rapid trigger, the very, very low actuation, the fact that you can set different actuations for different keys is very, very useful in game. But it does go to show that if we could produce a keyboard with very low latency that didn't have Hall effect, it would still be very serviceable for games that aren't ultra competitive, or even for gamers that are just competitive but not at a super insane level where we're trying to go pro. I mained this for actually 2 weeks, and like I said, after a day, it didn't really bother me at all as far as the Hall effect. What did bother me though is this gigantic form factor was a massive pain in the butt. As you can see here, when I sit this behind my wrist rest, which is comically small for a TKL and looks absolutely ridiculous with this keyboard, there's barely any separation. This is how much separation there is between my mouse pad and the keyboard. And if I was doing a large swipe and reaching the edge of my mouse pad, it would be in my subconscious that I was probably going to hit that keyboard. So I'd either throw my aim off, or I would legitimately just bump my mouse into the keyboard, and that would definitely throw my aim off. So this giant large form factor here, probably not something that I would recommend for most people. If you're using a large mouse pad like this is a 500 by 500 XL square X-ray pad mouse pad. I think it's anywhere close to your keyboard. Obviously, if you're someone who needs the numpad, great. This keyboard will be great for you, but I definitely prefer something like a 75% keyboard. I could even deal with 68. That's totally fine too. But that was my main gripe with this keyboard. The huge size, it's just not something I could adjust to with how my desk is set up. And I'll definitely be going back to my 75% keyboard as soon as this review is over. Now, again, that's not to say you shouldn't pick this keyboard up. If you're okay with this larger form factor, or if you're looking looking at different product offerings from MCHOSE or across the board that have non-Hall effect, low latency, you don't feel like you need Hall effect, or you can pick up a really good deal on the keyboard, yeah, it's not a bad choice. I can justify that. I can see you doing that. I wouldn't blame you at all. It's a very solid product. This has just proved to me that MCHOSE makes good keyboards. They have good consideration for sound, performance. MCHOSE has definitely impressed me in that way. They've been the most consistent company that I've tested so far. We'll see if that continues. And honestly, yeah, that's about all I have to say about this keyboard. It was the most extensive testing I've done wirelessly on a keyboard, and honestly, this keyboard performed just as well wirelessly as it did wired, which is honestly pretty impressive in my estimations. But yeah, with that being said, let's hit that sound test. So that about wraps up for my thoughts on the MCHOSE G98 Pro keyboard. It's a solid offering from MCHOSE. I did enjoy the switches, the sound, and the performance of the keyboard. I do, however, still think that you should probably opt for Hall effect in most gaming situations if you have the means financially. It doesn't cost that much more than the standard keyboard. I will say, however, that this did reinforce my confidence in MCHOSE and their quality of keyboards across the board. I do see that I could easily suffice without Hall effect and be just fine in games like Fortnite. Probably wouldn't miss it after a few days, but when I am using it, I do notice how helpful it is in game. The other takeaway was that the 98 form factor was just way too huge for me, and I will be sticking to the smaller form factor. I suspected this would be the case, but I thought maybe in practice it wouldn't be a problem. Turns out it was. Not the keyboard's fault. That's the size it's made in, and that's what I had to deal with. Please subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Check out the MouseCast podcast. Follow me on Twitter and join up on my Discord. And with that, we'll play ya.